First of all, I have a confession to make before I begin. This is the very first burn supper I've ever been to.
Wow.
And the same applies to my dear wife, Urania, or as most people will know her, the anglicised Urania or Urania. So our initiation into this long-standing tradition and being asked to do the address to the Lassies and the response to the Laddies as novices, as you can understand, is somewhat daunting. So you'll have to bear with me because I don't have the tradition of doing this and I've taken it on in my own style. So here we go. Now, I didn't have the brogue to do justice to Rabbi's fine words and verses. So I'll stop butchering the dialect, as my ancestral heritage to Scotland is 4 generations old and the Australian accent is clearly embedded. When I was researching this address and the life of Robert Burns, I was struck by how young he was when he passed. A very, very similar age actually to my great-great-grandfather, but that's totally another story. It led me to consider the volume of the work he produced and the number of lassies he wooed and the bands he fathered both in and out of marital bonds. So I pondered about his prolific achievements he produced in his short 37 years and pondered what he might have produced had he lived longer or perhaps later. His verses to and about the Lassies are not dissimilar to other bards. There was a well-known one who lived on the banks of the Avon some 200 years earlier than Rabbi, and he was inclined to woo his lassie by comparing his love eternally to a summer's day, just as Rabbi compared one of his loves to a red, red rose. And whether a sonnet or a song, both live on past their authors in their words. So long lives this, and this gives life to thee, to which Rabbi's refrain similarly echoes, "Ta the seas gang dry, my dear, and the rocks melt with the sun." And he didn't even know about Australian summers. But what if Rabbi were a modern poet and lyricist? How would he have fared wooing his lassies in verse? After all, nearly 400 years after that Southern Bard sonnet, a French lyricist and singer devoted a song to his lassie using very similar words. She may be the song that summer brings. You can hear the similarity. Though the sting may be in the following line, maybe the chill that autumn brings. Yet that song, written almost 50 years ago, still leaves the question, what do modern lassies want from their laddie? So in trying to answer that, I have borrowed from some more contemporary artists to imagine how Rabbi might have used verse to warm the chill of autumn in a modern lassie he may have encountered. And your task, should you choose it, is to guess which song and artist I've burnsed, or should that be burnt? So perhaps Rabbi may have had some luck with this lassie. Another Scotsman of the Stuart clan certainly tried. "Arise, dear Margaret, 'tis these words I must impart, for autumn is here, and my tuition I must start. Your merriment I know I readily supply, but ill use I perceive these days in your eye." I think this lassie was getting more out of the relationship than Rod. And I'm not certain Rabbi's physical stamina would have survived the encounter either. Of course, Rabbi could have sought his fortune in the New World, where this artist has mixed success in love and fame, and perhaps you will recognise this verse. "'Tis more than the Garden of Eden in promises she'll make, while you bleed at her hand, in careless mirth she will take. Though your worst she may give, 'tis your best she will see. The fault's yours to own, but she's always a lassie to me." You can hear the attempt still to woo, but would it have been enough to win the heart of this lassie who seems a bit of a danger with sharp objects, as Billy found to his detriment. Now, what if Rabbie had sailed to New South Wales? He may have found a lassie, married her, and then attempted to continue his wooing down at the local. Until Gova Willie, as he never has before, returns quite sober to his lassie's door. Into the hearth he doth tread, and she claims, "You look pale." Then through sobs he recounts, "The inn has no ale." Well, it could have been quite lonesome away from your kindred, for many a Scot who braved the tyranny of distance to settle in this wide brown land and find their lassie. Perhaps a warmer climate with warmer lassies might have helped. So could Rabbie have fared better in Latin America? And here you'll have to pardon me because I'm really going to butcher some Scots Gaelic. A drachdubh I possess. Aye, a drachdubh is a man. This lassie's a drachdubh, and yet I'm dal chan uren fasten. Aye, she's a drachdubh di in davul amak vum. You probably don't understand that because the devil, if I got the pronunciation correct, I guess some black magic might have helped. To me, it seems lassies these days might have been more than a match for Rabbie and his verse, though perhaps it wasn't just his verse that attracted them to him. And with that thought in mind, I'd now like all the laddies in the room to charge their glasses and be upstanding as I bring this address back home to Scotland and proclaim a toast to the lassies. So please. And I didn't bring my glass.
Yeah, very good.
So we're all upstanding. To the lassies. Well, just wait. And if I grow old, well, I know I'm going to be the laddie who's growing old with you. And if you know the words, you can join in. For I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be the laddie who walked 1,000 miles to fall down at your door. Or perhaps as Rabbie would have put it, and I will come home, my love, though it were 10,000 miles. To the lassies.
To the lassies.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Continue that applause. That was wonderful. Thank you. For a first time, that was magnificent. You've done very well. You'd better be careful, though. You might be asked back to do it again, I think, now. And now we ask his lovely lady, Orania, I hope, to do the response from the lasses.
Now, as a retired teacher, I am really used to the microphone, but I am so nervous at the moment. I am not doing very well at all. So, where is he? Thank you, Stephen. After all this time, do you really wonder what a lassie wants from her laddie? She wants you to realise a lassie is always right. I am sure you lassies out there have heard the expression, to do it right, Do it the way your lassie told you in the first place. Well, well, I think you can see what this lassie has had to put up with for the almost 50 years of marriage in November. However, I'm a lassie made of stronger stuff. And as I think you'll agree, lassies, we are all made of sterner stuff. You see, my heritage is from the sunny climes of the Peloponnese. My ancestors were Mycenaean. I am born of Helen's stock, the face that launched 1,000 ships, caused a 10-year siege, and the final fall of Troy. So dealing with this errant laddie is but a minor thing. Greek Korintsia, lassies, have a certain saying, which some of you may have heard translated into English, but here it is in Greek. O andras, μπορεί να είναι το κεφάλι, αλλά η γυναίκα είναι ο λαιμός. Και εκεί που γυρίζει ο λαιμός, γυρίζει το κεφάλι. I'll explain. But you all have heard this and you don't realise you've heard it. I'm sure if you've seen this movie. Basically it means the laddie may think he's the head of the family, but the lassie is the neck. And where the neck turns, the head follows. So in answer to Stephen's address, let me respond with a few contemporary verses that Rabbi may have found himself contemplating today. Again, see if you can recognise the original in the style of Rabbi Burns. Of an early marriage they did partake, but the lack of work their contentment it did break. To the drink he took, and loud strife could be heard, so when her bairns she left, and he nay said a word. I think I should have said with her bairns she left, and he nay said a word. Now, if it'd been a lassie and not a laddie, we all know how different the situation would have been. He wouldn't have started drinking, but gone out and found 2 jobs for the one that he'd lost, and he still had found time to be home to make dinner, bathe the bairns, and make sure the clothes were ready for the next day. Instead, he heads off to the north coast to a nice retreat for a year at the buttery, while his lassie is doing all the chores he should have done. No wonder when he does return, his tail is between his legs. Though I wonder if Rabbi would have easily found himself returning either in a silver top to her door. Today's laddies might feel the need for freedom, but what they really crave is a lassie who can mother them. And there's another modern day laddie who needs it most. The spell that I'm under is a saddening case, sewed up like a pillow, my love going to waste. There are chains around my heart, and you won't let me free. Through the misery I feel, you don't care beans for me. People thinking, I hope, perhaps if the poor laddie had been unchained, he might have seen the error of his ways. He's obviously smitten by his lassie, though she is obviously less than enamoured with him. You'd think he'd have taken the hint when another laddie answered her phone. Typically, he is too self-obsessed to see the writing on the wall. It'd be best if he just found the keys to his chains, because it isn't the laddie who has locked him up, but his own self-image. I mean, not every Joe, I've given you enough clues, I'm sure now, is a winner, and this one should have kept his own hat on. Whether Rabbi would have won a lassie's heart in these modern times is, of course, unknowable, but his verses, rhymes and songs still ring true in the hearts of many, and not only of Scottish descent. This may not have been your traditional toast to the lassies or response to the laddies, but we hope Stephen and I have amused you this evening. I'd ask now the lassies to raise their glasses, be upstanding, and give a toast to the laddies. To the laddies. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Irani. Another very commendable